let's dive into the subject of how we rebuild trust then, and we will start with regulation. Markus, we used to talk a lot in financial services about self-regulation. Do you think that the days of self-regulation are really over now?
Pretty much. I think self-regulation is over to the degree we have had it. And I think our challenge as an industry is now to cooperate with the governments, the associations, and the regulators to make sure that the wave, if not the tsunami of regulations, is actually proportionate in terms of what we need to change. Because I fear that many of our investors have a false sense of security because they believe that the quantity of regulation will also deliver the quality of future protection, which clearly is not the case, in my opinion.
I would be a proponent of a European system of banking supervision, but that's not what was decided. They added all kinds of extra supervision on top of what is already there. And the same goes for the United States, where we had a very good proposal, I think, from Hank Paulson at the time, but the government only added extra supervision instead of making supervision far more simple and transparent.
Why should we believe that these regulations are going to be any successful than the last lot?
They won't be. And that's the sad truth. I think it's a missed opportunity. There was a major opportunity to go to fix some of the fundamental problems that exist in the capital markets, in the incentives that bankers and traders have to do their jobs. To me, that's what it all comes down to. I think unfortunately, what Basel III and what so far Dodd-Frank law, 2,300 pages of it, have tried to do is solve the wrong problems.
I want to stick with where should regulators focus for just a moment. And Naveed, where should they focus? Should they focus on incentives? This is with a view to rebuilding trust.
So my view is that I think we collectively as an industry need to engage with the regulators in a collaborative fashion. And rather than discussing the specific regulation, my view would be we should communicate the principles of it, which is to say, banks industry need to focus on clients, should not speculate with its capital. The system should be transparent.
When we talk to our investors and our clients, we need to be more simple in terms of outlining what the upside and the downside is. So the days are gone where you have intergalactic brochures which promise you Earth and the moon and everything at a very cheap price. And I think these things are over and we need to change the way. My biggest concern in all of this is obviously that we potentially enter an ice age during which innovation and business growth are frozen by regulation and the bureaucrats.
In all of this, we're talking then about rebuilding trust. And I was asking at the beginning, trust between who? Trust between banks and governments, trust between clients and banks. But is there a question of trust with the broader society?
If we understand clients well, their needs, understand their business and economic objectives, and facilitate those in a responsible way, and the responsible word is very important, right? I think we will make ourselves a lot more relevant to the customers. That will lead for us to become more relevant to the marketplace, to the economy, and eventually to the community.
It was trying to satisfy customer demands that led us into some of the problems in the first place, because if customers make demands that are, excessive by somebody's definition, I'm sure, then the temptation is there to operate the business in a very short-term way that might meet that demand, but you pay the price further down the road.
I think the culture needs to be changing to the degree that profitability is not the only factor of measuring success. It has to be what you actually sell to your clients. It might be, a very good investment, and it might even be legal, I hope so. But actually, is it relevant to this particular client now and in the future?
The only long-term viability of the financial services industry is to be excellent in serving the customers and not having only the shareholders' value in mind, because ultimately also the shareholders' value depends on how you can serve your customer.
So maybe, Bill, in a retail environment, it is about serving your customers, isn't it?
Serving your, again, I mean, I don't know, are you serving your customers when the fine print allows credit card rates to be ratcheted up, to 18 or 20%? People who took out loans for mortgages for homes that they couldn't afford, All the documentation about those loans was inaccurate. Every piece of data on the mortgage application was inaccurate. Who would ever sign such a document? And lo and behold, you know, a month or two later, they defaulted on the mortgage. What is that all about? I mean, that is not good behavior, and no consumer protection agency at $500 million a year is going to save us from that.
But I think what we need to learn is the word no. You know, if clients come and want a certain investment return, we know from the outset we can't deliver. No. If they want us to accept certain liabilities which we believe are beyond what's healthy, no. And I think we haven't learned as an industry to say no, because it affects our purse ultimately. Let's be very honest about it.
Are shareholders willing to say, okay, well, we take slightly lower returns because we appreciate that this bank has a broader social function to perform?
Banks have always had a broad social function, whether they, you know, care to admit it or not. I mean, we have this incredible interconnectedness now, and bankers have become more and more important, and they need to begin to accept more and more personal responsibility and social responsibility for their behavior. There is this huge, I think, social benefit and benefit in the marketplace for the first bank that steps forward to do that.
The reality is that if you want to maximize the shareholder value, you have to stay in the business long enough to do that. And if you don't have trust, and if you don't have a trust of your stakeholders, it's very difficult to sustain yourself in the long term.
A good place to leave our discussion. Gentlemen, thank you very much for participating today.